Alright, y'all, we are back in action. I had to deal, of course, with my bitrate as per usual. That is nothing new here in the house of Auto 9. But we are back and we are kicking ass like always. We're gonna hop right back into it. If you don't remember where we are, we're on episode 36. We have just gotten word that State Prince Dun is causing a chaos and stirring up commotion again. He's asking the emperor to essentially promote his deceased mother, who unfortunately died young but died a ignoble death, was not allowed to, I guess, be interred in the consorts or consort dowagers mausoleums. And so this causes a huge rift in the, or could cause a huge rift in both the harem and the court if the emperor agrees or doesn't disagree, right? And so he has Concubine Juan here with him to help solve the issue, and like I said, he's angry so much so that he like slams his fist down, but then like she calms him down again, then he gets angry again. And at first it seems like they won't be able to come up with a solution, but Concubine Juan, reminds the emperor, this temporary aching that you're feeling is for thousands of years of prosperity. There have been plenty of emperors before you who had to sacrifice or made small sacrifices to, just allow the country and those that are coming after them to prosper and have peaceful times. And she gives like two main examples. One of the ones that stuck the most with me was an emperor had to basically had to like not deal with or that's not the right word. So a previous emperor basically had to swallow the fact that his brother was murdered by, a particular court minister, and instead end up, taking that court minister's sister as his empress instead of his true love, in order to provide for thousands of years of prosperity, And so Concubine Juan is using these examples to bring towards the emperor's attention that you've always had to do this. You've always had to, sacrifice like this. And, I guess to his credit, because like I always call him a coward, and we always talk about how the emperor doesn't do anything to Consort Nian because of her brother and what, those two do for him and the country in itself. But it's one thing to have him acknowledge it like this, and he does. He says, sometimes I feel more like a coward than an emperor because I'm not able to make these rules or, deal with such a simple case. I can't even kill this guy, And so Concubine Juan brings up another great point too. And she says that, chat, I can't even remember what she says. Do I have to go find... I have to go find the thing, the review, chat. Hold on. The replay, if you will. What? I can't even find it. It's like the first 10 minutes of the... Whatever. Concubine Juan says this really cool line, and the emperor, he immediately looks up and he's like, she says this isn't cowardice, this is governing by via retreat. And the emperor looks up to her and he's like, you always say exactly just what I need to hear and how to soothe my heart. And she's like, I'm not saying this necessarily for comfort or, to be compassionate. I'm just stating the truth of the fact. And I think this was her, like, saying, like, yeah, no, you really didn't kill Consort Nian or, like, severely punish her after killing our child, basically, forcing me to miscarry because you knew you needed her brother on the battlefield. You knew you needed his prowess and his skills in order to defeat some of the people at the borders. And so she is once again reminding him that you've already been doing this. There's no reason why you can't continue. And so she tells him, you're going to grant his request. You're going to give his mother the title. You're going to give her an honorary name. And you're going to allow her to be buried in the mausoleum. And for a second, the emperor gets so pissed and so mad, he takes his cup and he smashes it against the floor. And Su Peshang, who's right outside, is like, oh, fuck. The fuck? And so, like, him and the other eunuch are like, shit, what should we do? You know, just providing a little bit of commentary there. But it goes back immediately to the scene, and Concubine Wan is, yes, you're going to do all of this. But at the same time, you're also going to promote all the consorts of the previous emperors and give them all honorary titles. And as well as especially Consort Dowager Soshi, who was head of all consorts at the time. And so this is a very good plan. This is a very good... Oh, and then she also says, you're also going to give the current Empress Dowager, you're going to crown her with the most eminent honorary name, you know, with the most prestigious honorary name, you know, to show your filial piety and respect for your brothers. And the emperor immediately agrees. He's like, you're right. He wants to fucking give his mom a name. We gonna give her a name, alright? And then I'm also gonna grant everybody else a name. In the name of praying for peace for her majesty, so nobody in the court nor in the harem can disagree, alright? So we see that in this way, Concubine Wan is creating the stability and creating, once again, another plan for the emperor. And she's basically ingratiating herself with him by doing these things, you know? Getting him out of that rock and hard place and making it so that if there was dissent, you know, civil officials wouldn't have much of a dissent. There wouldn't be much to be critical about, you know, especially since it's in the name of praying for his mother, you know. And Consort Dowager says, and don't forget, the lords and consort dowagers will also appreciate your, or the alive ones at least, will appreciate your grace, and they will appreciate your humility shown to them, which also ingratiates them to you, you know, and in a sense, not necessarily building up his fortifications or building up his camp in that way, but it's a good way to make sure the remaining brothers that he has stay on his side, if you will. And so he agrees, and the last thing that she mentions is you have one brother, Prince Gao, whose mother, Consort Dowager Serene, she's a nun. She's a Taoist nun, so she's not necessarily gonna have you know, her case is different. So like, she's not gonna have like an actual imperial title like that. What he did was that, because, well, at first he's like, well, you know, my brother Prince Gao, my brother doesn't care about that shit, you know, he's never really won for titles. And, you know, Concubine Wan's like, though he might not necessarily care, you know, there are gonna be people who like trying to distort and scheme this in their favor. So she's like, you better just do this, because you won't make it like easy for these people. He's like, you're right. I won't give her an imperial like title. That's improper, because she's a nun now. Instead, she'll be called Venerable Abscess Serene, you know? And so with, like, I guess with this solved, or quote unquote solved, because we don't know how State Prince Dun is gonna react, but now that everything's like all arranged and everything, the emperor is going back to serenading Concubine Wan and telling her, oh, you notice everything about me, and you always take care of me, you know how to say just exactly what I hear, you know, basically saying all these sweet nothings to her. And to me, though Concubine Wan was hurt, you know, just, you know, a few months ago, was heard about, like, what happened, she clearly is still very much in love with the emperor. And while I do know that she is very much becoming more scheming, and she's building up her fortifications mentally, making sure all her P's and Q's are dotted and lined off and everything, and she's also making sure that while yes she planned to gain the favor of the emperor, like with that whole butterfly stint from last Watch Club's episode, she still genuinely has feelings for him, and you can see it in the way that she's staring at him as he's talking to her about this. And though there is still, you know, you could tell there's still some apprehension, because of course, like, you know, you didn't do anything to the person that murdered my child. she also knows that that's not, that's not the big picture right now. What the big picture is, making sure that His Majesty knows that I love him and that I'm gonna be there for him, and probably getting pregnant again will be part of her picture. In the next scene, we immediately see the Empress, rushing up to the Hall of Mental Cultivation. She's asking Su Peixiong what's going on. I heard His Majesty was upset, what happened, all that shit. And so Su Peixiong's like, oh, sure. But Concubine Wan's already inside with His Majesty, so, we don't need you. And so you could see on the Empress's face, and even the faces of her maids, bro, I paused it. She's like, oh, I see. Well then. Like, she's gritting her teeth almost. She's like, just let him know I stopped by, will you? Please? And so she, like, leaves all very, gracefully and elegantly. But immediately we see that there's a little bit of self-loathing. Like, because she ends up talking to her head maid, and the maid's like, what did she say? Go back. Oh, she's like, are you sure you're just gonna leave without, visiting, like, personally walking in to visit the Emperor? And the Empress is like, well, Concubine Wan is already there with him, so he doesn't need me, right? But she says it through, not necessarily, like, a pained expression, but you can tell that she's very much upset. And so, back to Concubine Wan, this next, like, scene really had me, like, in a tizzy, chat. Because essentially we see Concubine Wan advocating for Consort Nian's reinstatement. And I don't know if Concubine Wan will ever truly get justice, but something tells me Concubine Wan's about to get revenge, okay? And I say this because we all know that Concubine Wan is very scheming now. We all know that she's not just gonna do something without a plan now. And so she not begs, but she asks the Emperor to reinstate her as consort. And he's taken aback. He's like, after what she did to you, why would you, what is this about? And so she's like, honestly, we're just trying to indulge the pride of the Nian family. This will help cause them to, like, slack off, and they'll start making more mistakes, and everything that they're doing in the dark will come to light, essentially. Basically, like I said, setting this plan. She even says, also, moreover, not only her reinstatement, you should also, more than likely, because she's talking about Consort Nian, you should also start visiting her more. You should probably see her like how you normally did and start treating her normally. That way it doesn't come off, like, suspicious, or that he's only doing it because of this reasons, And I guess I'm giving him too much credit. I really am, chat. But to the Emperor's credit, he's like, are you okay with that? Like, or is that what you really want? Like, and so she responds, hey, if you can endure for the country, I can endure for you, And I'm just like, alright, girl, now you damn well just paying lip service. You trying to get this bitch up out of here. You trying to get this bitch up out of here. Don't. But I let her have that one. I let her have that one straight up, because I was like, wow, you know damn well you don't give a fuck about them slacking off and their mistakes coming to light. All their mistakes. Girl, you about to get some revenge. And so the Emperor, is like, this will be, an injustice to you. I don't want you to feel like this is because I don't love you, that kind of thing. And once again, Concubine Wan showing off that she's not bothered by it. Or not bothered by him wanting to, like, or not him wanting to, but him saying, yeah, I mean, I could do it, but, like, do you want to do it? Like, she's like, it's fine, it's whatever. And so he promises that he'll bring her justice, right? And I'm like, I don't know if she'll ever get justice, guy, but sure, because even, like, the slight, because what happens is the camera, like, pans on their hands. He grasps one of her hands, to show, like, solidarity or whatever. And as she rests her hands on top, it's very, like, a slow, calculated, like, fuck. Like, I guess I can put my hand on top of this and pretend I like you right now. So, I digress once again. I don't know if Concubine Wan is like using this particularly as to get revenge, but from my understanding, because of how she's like transforming herself and building herself up to be not necessarily cruel, but to be cunning and, you know, fast on her feet with it, something tells me that this is going to be a lot more than just a simple, you know, I can endure it, and we can get their mistakes to light and then, you know, get them arrested. Like, she's not trying to do this by the books, chat. She's quite literally about to go head to head in front of the Emperor's face, and he can't even see that. He's just, I'll get justice for you one day, head ass. And she's like, okay. Anyways, and I agree with her. Like, I'm just like, this don't do nothing for me, bro. But in the next scene, after all that is said and done, we have the Emperor and the Empress Dowager talking. And they're talking for a bit, and he's telling her about Nin Gunyao seconding the motion of State Prince Dun's request, and what you call it, how they're essentially, you know, putting the Emperor into a rough spot. And so he asks her, you know, would you allow this? You know, I don't want to be, basically like, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful, but, you know, is this something that you'd be okay with? And she's like, why wouldn't it? Why? She's like, the effort is made for the living. That lady ain't gonna know. That lady dead. She ain't gonna know that she got a title. And she's so right. She is so fucking right. This title is only, or these titles and this fame and all of this is really only for the living, you know? Who cares about someone who's died and can't enjoy the spoils of, like, all of this? But then the conversation changes to Consort Nian. And, you know, the Empress Dowager brings up, like, oh, I don't want her to become, you know, another, I think her name was Wenqi, but she's like, I don't want her to become another, Empress Dowager Wenqi, or Consort Dowager Wenqi, I guess basically stating that there was someone like Consort Nian, which there's always gonna be a Consort Nian in these fucking dramas, dude. There always is. But she was saying, like, I don't want another incident of that. And, you know, fortunately she doesn't have a child that would cause, you know, issues later in the year. And so, the Emperor looks down and he's like, you know, that's also the reason why I really love Concubine Wan. She lost her child, and, you know, feeling guilty about, you know, having to reinstate Consort Nian, and, you know, possibly, the musk in her pleasancy sense, harming her fertility. You know, he feels guilty. And so the, Empress Dowager is like, well, we exclusively, the pleasancy that we exclusively granted for Consort Nian has already harmed her fertility. She cannot get pregnant, essentially. And so, I guess in a way, this is, like, their confirmation. Like, we've had confirmation before, and we've drawn, lines, and we knew that this is what happens, but this is actual confirmation. And the Empress Dowager even feels somewhat bad because they're talking about it in, relation to it affecting Concubine Wan's pregnancy, right? And so she feels guilty as well. Or, supposedly. I don't know if she really does, because I can't really get a read on the Empress Dowager as I'd like to. But she says, you know, there's no point in dwelling on it. You know, dust is dust. What is done is done. There's nothing for us here. And it's alright if you're a little bit partial towards her that way. You know, just don't excessively, you know, favor her. Okay? And then he blurts out a line that he's like, you know, I'm just not a good father. I'm not a good dad. And so she's like, you know, or she being the Empress Dowager, the Empress Dowager's like, you know what, dude? You gotta realize, if Nin Gunyao, or not Nin Gunyao, if Consort Nian had a son, right? She had a child, specifically a son. Nin Ganyao, her brother, would surely support the child as heir to the throne, despite whoever was chosen by the emperor. Like, I guess insinuating that Nin Ganyao would push for his nephew and only his nephew, and he would do anything, like, to get him on the throne, even forcing the current emperor to abdicate, you know? And she says, once that happens, by that time that happens, when, you know, you give up the crown and everything, me and you won't even have a place to live. They gonna just kill us, you know? So this is not something to be upset about. This is not something to contemplate, you know? And so the Empress Dowager also says, you know, recently you have made her feel neglected. So, you know, I understand that you know, I get that you're going through a difficult time with State Prince Dun, but Nin Ganyao is the real problem, right? He has military power, okay? And with military power comes a lot of responsibility, in the sense that he's responsible for doing certain things that could, in essence, allow him to take over the throne if he really wanted to. That's how much power and responsibility Nin Ganyao has. And so the Empress Dowager reminds him that, moreover, we know that there's collusion between, you know, State Prince Dun and the Nian family. So it doesn't, you know, it won't do you any good to just focus on State Prince Dun. Focus quite literally on Nin Ganyao and his crazy, like, aspirations and stuff like that. And so she tells him, if you make efforts to appease Consort Nian, that'll be understandable, because, excuse me, if you appease her and you know, you have sympathy for her and you comfort her and all this good shit, it'll make it easier for us, essentially. And the Emperor's like, yeah, like, she's been with me all these years. She's always, you know, she's always been sincere with me, right? The next fucking line threw me for a loop, chat, because then he's like, I had no choice but to kill my own child, right? And I'm like, okay, did you, what? Who's, and then the Empress Dowager is like, well, yeah, it was done with Consort Duan's hands. And I was just like, what the fuck? Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. The Emperor killed Consort Nian's child, not Consort Duan. He just used her to do it, right? And this revelation was like the Emperor is one, not only responsible for a lot of the shit that's happened to these concubines and consorts over the time, at the hands of Consort Nian, but he's literally responsible for, you know, suiciding his own baby. Basically, like, he caused her to miscarry, when, like Consort Nian said, when she drank that soup, that tonic, all of a sudden she just miscarried the next few days, and it was clearly the soup. There was nothing else she could have done or did that would have caused it, right? And it's funny that he says he feels bad, and that he's a bad father, and it's like, yeah, not only did you kill, like, Consort Nian's child, Consort Nian retaliated and poured boiling hot saffron flour down Consort Duan's throat, like, forcibly shoved that shit down her throat, causing her to be infertile. So it's like, end up killing, like, two birds with one stone, and not in the way you wanted to. And the Empress Dowager, like, bro, like, she loved deflecting blame, bro, because she's like, what you even worried about all of it? Like, it was done by, she literally is like, it was done by Consort Duan's hands. She's taking all the blame for you. Like, you should let it go. And he's like, I done lost so many fucking children. Who knows whether or not I am truly the son of heaven? And I'm like, yeah, guy, you on some shit. You're on some shit, dude. Like, it was such a mind-blowing, like, thing to, like, wow, you, like, sorry, chat, I'm like every few fucking words. But it really blew my mind to hear that was how Consort Nian, unfortunately lost her child. I never thought it was Consort Duan, but I just assumed Consort Nian, how crazy and fucking antisocial she is. I assumed that she just literally miscarried and decided to blame anybody, you know? And so, like, the Emperor is just, like, all, like, downtrodden and depressed about all of this shit. And so we move on to the next scene, and we see the Empress is just growing increasingly upset and distressed at losing more and more the Emperor to Concubine Wan. And I'm sure she has something up her sleeve. I'm sure she is. Because she just seems to be so concerned with the fact that she can no longer be as close to the Emperor as she once was, because of this, what she suppose is happening is, is because of our Concubine Wan, and causing this huge rift in between, apparently. But in the next scene, we moving on, because there's not much that happened there. She was just talking. We see Concubine Wan's plan of letting Consort Nian and her brother get comfortable, kind of ended up being a mistake a little bit. You know, yes, they're getting lazy, right? They're getting settled with everything, but it's backfiring in the sense that Consort Nian is not the woman to be humbled, okay? She doesn't know what humility is, except for the Emperor, in front of the Emperor. She doesn't care for the fact that she was released via Concubine Wan's words, aka help, you know? And it's just infuriating. Yeah, that's the word. It's infuriating. Because we know that this lady is, like, at the end of her rope, but it's like, how many more tricks she has up her sleeve, you know? So I'm sure, well, we know that the Empress is about to do some shit, but I'm pretty sure Consort Nian is like, she's gonna go after Concubine Wan again. Like, it doesn't stop just because she was slightly punished, or she was barely punished, you know? And so that's why I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't think Concubine Wan's ever gonna get truly justice. She's just gonna get, like I said, revenge. I digress. We move on. We see Noble Lady Hui and the Empress Dowager are becoming closer. And I have a feeling through the Empress Dowager, Noble Lady Hui and Concubine Wan will be a bit safer from the antics of the other concubines, but I doubt it. I really, really doubt it, because, like, how much, like, what did I say? How much protection can she cover when she's allowing the Empress to do harmful things? Like, quite literally covering up the Empress's misdeeds, right? And if we see that if she's there for the Empress, and she's there for, like, her how do you say, yeah, just evil deeds, whatever. She's there for evil deeds. Who's to say that she's not gonna want to protect Concubine Wan? Because Concubine Wan is only going up against Consort, or the people who are really a challenge for Concubine Wan are Consort Nian and the Empress. And I don't know if the Empress were to go head-to-head against Concubine Wan, if the Empress Dowager would take her side. Because it doesn't seem likely. Like, one, the Empress Dowager and the Empress are literally from the same family. Not necessarily the same clan, but from the same family. And two, the Empress Dowager helped promote the Empress to where she was because she knew the Empress would help support the Empress Dowager and the Empress Dowager's position, you know? But I digress. We're gonna move on. Let's see. Yes, now that Consort Nian is again back up on her feet, she seems to doubt the sincerity of the Emperor a little bit. And, like, I wouldn't say that, like, she doesn't trust him like that. It's just, she's just like, why would you come back all of a sudden? You seemed really angry with me, that type of thing. And so, of course, her arrogance in the next scene just explodes. Bar, like, the next scene is the Empress and Concubine Wan talking. Concubine Wan's, like, serving the Empress tea. And boom, we hear the announcement for Consort Nian coming into the room, and she like throws her fucking, what's it called, her coat, her outside coat on the floor, and she just like staunters, like slash swaggers in, and she's like, huh, you thought you saw the last of me, huh? And the Empress is like, ah, yes, Concert Nian, huh. And so Concubine Wan bows to Concert Nian, and Concubine Wan doesn't really engage much. But I will say Concert Nian tries to goad her in the sense that she's like, oh, I see that you're out and about. I see that, or she's like, you're out and about because I haven't seen you for a long time. And she was like, I was always thinking about you no matter what. So even though I haven't seen you, it feels like I've seen you every day. And Concubine Wan's just like, okay, fucking crazy bitch. And so she talks to the Empress, like, or she looks at the Empress particularly, and she starts to talk to her. And she's like, you know, when I saw the Emperor the other day, I had the same feeling. And Concert Nian, bro, like, just to take a deep breath, chat, because here we go. She begins to hurl insults. She's like, oh, so you must be a ringworm in the Emperor's stomach, always knowing everything, right? We see this tit for tat once again, back and forth. Like, Concubine Wan's like, oh, of course not, I dare not presume. And then Concert Nian's like, oh, I would accept your kind words. And then Concubine Wan just stares at her and smiles, and they're just like staring at each other, having this death match until the Empress speaks up. And she's like, Concert Nian, how are you? I haven't seen you for so long. You're so distant from me. You must come to my palace more often. And Concert Nian's like, sure, I will, as long as you're not bothered by me. And it's just this tit for tat, back and forth, like, high school girly shit, right? And it's like, can we move on to the other drama? Because this isn't the fun drama. This is other drama. But after that, Concert Nian and the Emperor hang out again. Once again, she's doubting the sincerity of the Emperor, but she doesn't necessarily say anything too much. But after that, we see that Noble Lady An, you know, making a fucking appearance, because that bitch is doing everything she can. She's literally doing everything she can, like all in her power, to go against Noble Lady Hui, right? And Concubine Wan. And like how the Empress is doing to her and Concubine Wan. And I don't understand why Noble Lady An doesn't get that. And the Empress tells her this. Why, like, I don't understand why she doesn't get that. It's better to be friends with Concubine Wan, because she literally is the reason why, or is not the reason why, but is one of the reasons why she was able to receive favor from the Emperor in the first place, right? And so, woo, chat, my stomach is bumping. I need to get some food in his belly. Let's hurry up with this episode so I can get some food in his belly. So, we see in the next scene, sorry, chat. I almost spilled all my fucking soda over this goddamn... I have a Shure mic. I have a Shure 3000. And if you know anything about podcasts and streaming, that shit's expensive. And I almost just, like, poured my soda over that. So, just got a little upset there. And so, like I was saying, yeah, Noble Lady An is just doing everything in her power to set herself up against Noble Lady Hui and Concubine Wan, and it's the dumbest plan ever. Ooh, it's a good soda though, I'll tell you much. It's nice and cold. That was just for you, chat. Anyways, the way that that Noble Lady An tries to create this rift, once again, that the Empress had tried to do with, or that the Empress did do with her and Concubine Wan, these fucking titles, chat, she tells, or she kind of like hints at, which of course Noble Lady Hui is not one for like bullshit, and she's like, I know what you're trying to say. I like, and she even, and when Noble Lady An leaves, she even mentions to her maid that she wouldn't have said this to me if she wasn't trying to intentionally tell me. But she ends up telling Noble Lady Hui that Concubine Huan was the one who got Consort Nian reinstated, right? And that's aggravating and angering to her. She's like, Huan'er hate, or Huan'er is the nickname, Huan'er hates her the most. I don't understand why she would do that. That doesn't make sense. And so Noble Lady An, still fueling the flames with fire, she's like, yeah, she was the one that ended up persuading the Majesty the most, His Majesty the most. And so Noble Lady Hui gets upset, and she's like, enough, I don't want to hear any more of your shit. If Huan'er has something to tell me, she will. If she didn't tell me, it didn't happen. Let's not gossip about her and, you know, the things in the harem. And so Noble Lady, good on her, you know, because yes, this is what I'm talking about, their sisterhood. Any other fucking like woman, any person in the harem would have automatically believed Noble Lady An, not necessarily because they like her or know her or friends with her, just because it's so easy to believe bullshit like that and get yourself riled up like that. But rather than do that, you know, very sure of herself and very sure of the friendship and her friend of Concubine Huan, she's like, no, if she didn't tell me, it didn't happen, okay? And if she did tell me, then why are you here? So what's good? What's good? So like, why would you even come trying to tell me all of this bullshit, bro, if she didn't say nothing to me? You're clearly trying to like, she didn't say that you're trying to set me up, but it was inferred that like you're clearly trying to, you know, get me to oppose her right now. And so she ends the conversation by saying, it's time that I go visit the Empress Dowager. I won't keep you. You can go. And so she's like, okay, I'll take my leave, girl. I'm out. And like I said, as soon as Noble Lady An leaves, Noble Lady Hui talks to her maid, and she's like, Noble Lady An was very clear about like the details of everything. Like, I don't think this is just, you know, a rumor. And Noble Lady Hui is like, yeah, I know, but I still have to ask Huan'er first. Like, this is not something I could just make my own concessions on. Like, I have to talk to her. And like I said, good on her, because this is a really good trait that I try to imbue in myself and bide in myself. Trusting the relationship and trusting others to be themselves, rather than automatically doubting them, and then you started doubting your trust and your intuition because you didn't see this or you didn't notice this was about them, blah blah blah. And so this goes to show you that trusting your instinct and the relationship you have with persons can get you farther, you know, rather than getting yourself wilded up by like ridiculous accusations or lies. You know, it's better to actually talk to the person first. The thing is, it's very much true. It's not like a lie. It's not something that didn't happen. It's very much true. It's just not for the reasons that she thinks she's thinking, if that makes sense, chat. But I digress. We're moving on. So the next thing that whoa, boys. Whoa. Sorry, chat. I just had a really bad like burp / heartburn. Anyways, so one of the next things that happens is Concubine Huan goes to visit the Empress Dowager, right? And essentially the whole talk basically breaks down to patience and having patience and waiting, right? Basically what Consort Duan taught Concubine Huan earlier. She was saying, there is no rush. We will wait, baby. We don't have any need to try and get back at Consort Nian right now. And that I really like noticed that's the key lesson for Concubine Huan right now. That is the constant parable, if you will, that is always been brought up to Concubine Huan, whether it's from Noble Lady Hui or Consort Duan or the Empress Dowager. And so Noble Lady Hui, of course, happens to be there with the Empress Dowager because she was visiting her, and she comes to give her some she says hawthorn nuts or something, and it's because she wants she knows the Empress Dowager takes very sour medicine, so this is supposed to help with the taste of the medicine and whatnot, showing filial piety and how she genuinely cares about like the comfort and like the enjoyment of the Empress Dowager. So they talk for a little bit. Excuse me. They talk for a little bit. And so after the whole like, oh, here's the hawthorn nuts that I brought for you for your medicine. I guess covertly, because of the next line, but covertly the Empress Dowager, she is teaching Concubine a lesson, because she then turns to Concubine Huan and she's like, do you recognize your offense? And Concubine Huan immediately kneels and she's like, I'm very frightened and unaware of what I did, please let me know. And so the Queen Dowager, she's like, how dare you, right? Like out of nowhere. And even this takes Noble Lady way like back, like it takes her aback, and she's like, oh shit. And so the Empress Dowager is like, you dare to interfere with state affairs as a concubine, how dare you? And so sorry chat, just got a stupid text message. Immediately, you know, Noble Lady Hui, even though very upset with Concubine Huan, tries to come to her like defense. She's like, no, she didn't mean to do it. And consort, the Empress Dowager is like, why are you so flustered? What are you upset for? And so, Concubine Huan tries to defend herself. She's like, I would never, you know, commit such a heinous crime. You know, please don't think that was me. And so she tells her, like, I'll give you a chance to confess right now. How much were you involved with the previous consort dowagers of the previous emperor? How much were you involved with their promotions right now? And immediately Concubine Huan's like, you will make a fair judgment. I have nothing to say. I've always, you know, remembered to stay where I need to be and stay within the bounds of the harem, and I've always told the emperor that I would never interfere with state affairs, which is true. She's always made comment in which it was like by poem or by history lesson, right? The most that she's ever told the line, I've noticed personally, was the State Prince Dun and the Ningun Yao like case, and that was strictly like, even then she still used like history as a precedent to answer the question that the emperor was asking. You know, she didn't outright say, oh, you don't need to do this and you don't need to do that. And so she's like, I had nothing to do with any of this. The emperor had decided all of this. He was already going to promote the dowagers. I was just there to agree, you know, thinking that agreeing with this and promoting the consort dowagers was a family matter. I did not mean to overstep my bounds. Like, she was basically backtracking. She was like, I only said a little bit, but I never interfered at any point in time. Basically, not backtracking, that's the wrong phrase. She's basically covering her tracks and saying, like, you know, I've only said this because of this, and I said it because of this and not because of that. Basically, I wouldn't say excuse, but she's still making sure that, like, she's not in trouble. And so the Empress Dowager is like, okay, but even if you weren't directly involved, how can you say there's no self-interest in this? And so Concubine Huan, smart as ever, and I love her sharp tongue. She's like, I saw that the emperor was very upset and very worried, and as the head of state, he cannot be neglecting to eat and sleep. And as fortunate as I am to serve him, I still have to care for him. And if I have this self-interest, it is that I want him to live in happiness and harmony. You know, very, 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 clever. There you go. Very, I snapped my fingers. Very clever, concubine Wan. Because though that is true, she does care about, like, him eating and sleeping. She doesn't want him to hurt herself. That's not the reason why she was doing all this. We know she about to get revenge. We know she about to fucking come down like the hammer on the anvil to Concert Nian, right? And so the Empress Dowager is like, yeah, but who doesn't have these self-interests? Like, what woman doesn't think this way? So she eventually drops it, and she's like, fine. It's fine. You can rise. But if your self-interest ever diverts, from this self-interest you explained to me, there's gonna be a problem. And she even states something that I've been saying forever. Like, all of the livelihoods, and I mean every single person, but specifically the livelihoods of the women in the harem are dependent on the whims and the wills of the emperor. And she's like, as long as the emperor is here, all the concubines, regardless of favor, status, family name, background, they will have at least a life to look forward to. They won't have to worry about, being thrown into the coal palace or killed off with the emperor or whatever. Oh my god. My stomach, I gotta hurry up. And so the Empress Dowager is like, yeah, like, obviously, if he's alive, everyone can have a life. But if he's gone, only those who have children to rely on can kind of get by. But, like, concubines like you and Mei Shuang, which is basically a nickname for noble lady Hui, but you and Mei Shuang, you guys are childless. You don't have children. And this is going to be very hard in the near future. Despite, like, all the current glories that you have, this is going to be very hard for you in the very near future, even in your old age, just waiting for death, basically. And so she's, like, basically reiterating, like I said, what I said a couple episodes ago, and she ends up letting Concubine Wan off the hook. But she also mentions that it was her idea to restore Consort Hua, because we restored her title now and restored her to her position. I keep calling her Nian though, but it's Consort Hua. She's been restored back to her position and status. Yes, the Empress Dowager saying it was your idea to do this, and immediately, and I don't know if the Empress Dowager just was doing this on purpose or she was just trying to get, like, information out of her, but immediately Noble Lady Hui is upset. She, like, glares at her, and Concubine Wan's like, oh shit, like, she, like, she, like, lowers her head a little bit, and she, like, looks up from the side of her eye really quickly. And so the Empress Dowager is like, was this against her will? Was this something you wanted to do? Like, and so immediately Concubine Wan has to, like, confess, like, it was her idea, and that she did ask to reinstate her, like, without, like, someone like pulling the strings, basically. Like, she did this on her own volition. And so she even makes a good line that kind of makes sense as to why she did it too, that even the Empress Dowager couldn't argue with. And she was like, I can't interfere with state affairs, but in this situation, it's necessary to calm both down. And I can't allow my personal grievances to, affect that. I can't interfere with state affairs and harem affairs that way. It's not right. Then I would definitely be, a concubine worthy of death at this point. And she doesn't say it exactly like that, but she says, like, that's, you would say that I would have to bear such injustice, because if not, I would be like an evildoer instead, basically. And so immediately the Empress Dowager realizes, she's like, oh, okay, she's not as senseless and stupid as I thought she was. That's fine. So she was like, I didn't expect you to actually, like, think and have a heart, like this. And I was like, why didn't you expect her to okay, weird. And so Noble Lady Hui, upset, she turned her head, And she's just like, I can't believe this bitch up. She's just really pissed the fuck off, right? But we move on to the next scene. But before we do, like I said, we do have updated ranks. Concert Hua went from being Concert Nian to Concert Hua again. And that's pretty much it for that episode in terms of 36. Our final thoughts. Lessons were taught in this episode. Prince Dun and Ningun Yao have caused a stir in both the court and harem due to their collaborations, machinations. And this ended up causing the Emperor and Concubine Wan to do things they didn't necessarily want to do. Also having the Empress Dowager and Noble Lady Hui like misunderstand what actually had happened and how involved Concubine Wan initially was and whatnot. We also see the Empress and Noble Lady An running around trying to undercut Concubine Wan's efforts in a jealous attempt to get her in trouble with friends and with the Empress Dowager even, right? And this is really seen, especially in that last scene I was just talking about, when the Empress Dowager is like grilling her hard, and even though it appeases the answer that she gets from Concubine Wan, appeases the Empress Dowager, it really pisses and Noble Lady An's Cheerios, or excuse me, Noble Lady Hui's Cheerios. She, while understanding that Concubine Wan did this in order to see like she didn't want to like have personal interests invested in things like that, but she also knows that like not only was she responsible for your miscarriage, she also lied and basically framed me for lying about being pregnant when I was never even pregnant in the first place, right? And then framed me for having a miscarriage and using a child to have or to gain favor, basically. And so like these are final thoughts, I don't want to ramble on because final thoughts, god damn it. We see that there's a little bit of rift in the relationship, but not like in the same way Noble Lady An was rifted off of Concubine Wan. But it's enough that when both Noble Lady Wan and Noble Lady Hui were walking out, that Noble Lady Wan Noble Lady Hui did not want to speak or look at Concubine Wan. She was very upset, very pissed off. Ow, ow, ow. I digress. We are moving right back into Empresses in the palace on our watch club today. Specifically, we're going right back into episode 37. And off the bat, episode 37 starts with Concubine Wan. She's like on her sedan chair. And she happens to see Noble Lady Sao, and they're talking for a little bit. And honestly, like, I want to trust Noble Lady Sao, but like she just has yet to prove herself to me, right? Like she hasn't really shown me to be a good person. Like she's shown me to be a capable person even, but maybe not even like a strong ally, maybe a capable ally. But aside from that, we see her talking with Noble Lady Sao, and Princess Wen-Yi is there, and she's very sweet. She kisses Noble Lady Wan on the cheek, and she gives her a flower, yes. And then after that, Noble Lady Sao initially kind of leans over and asks Concubine Wan to like secretly meet her, like, I need to tell you something. So Concubine Wan asks, oh, I'm gonna go take or she doesn't ask, she just announces, I'm gonna go take a stroll in the gardens, I'll see you later, you know? Still keeping that distance from each other when when out in the open, and only really meeting each other and talking to each other in secret like this. And so after the pleasantries, you know, of course, Noble Lady Sao's like, okay, so here's what happened. And she also asked Jinxi to leave. She literally wants everyone to just she wants everyone to be gone. It's just her and Concubine Wan talking. And she tells her that Consort Floor summons her to her palace, the Palace of Earthly Honor, yesterday. And so, like, Concubine Wan's like, okay, that's fine, nothing wrong with that. You guys have always been close, and now that her title's been restored, obviously go congratulate her, right? And she was like, yes, congratulatory, like, gifts were sent. But the problem is, she's asking about your activities over the period of her confinement right now. And so this obviously is a big red flag, because this, like, obviously Noble Lady Sao can play double agent, I think it is, where she is a spy for Consort Nian, but really is a spy for Concubine Wan, but really is a spy for Consort Nian, I think. And this could easily, she could easily have her choice, her choice of which concubine she thinks will inevitably be best for her and Princess Wen Yi's like longevity in the palace. And also which concubine is probably not going to give her like a shit ton of like I don't know, anxiety, like shit ton of like, I don't know, like, cause with Concubine Wan, obviously she makes Noble Lady Sao anxious, but it's not anxious that I'm fearing for my life anxious. It's anxious that, like, she could easily say something and I could, like, that'll be it. Like, Wen Yi could be taken from me, or I could just be demoted, you know, something like that. Not necessarily outright just killing me. Whereas with Consort Hua would just, she already does. She slaps her around, she beats her down, she berates her, and that's that source of anxiety that I'm talking about. Like, is it like life and death anxiety, or just anxiety that this lady doesn't necessarily like me and therefore can make my life hard, you know? And it's, I'm sure she's not used, I'm sure she's not unused to having a hard life. So that's why I even bring it up in the first place, because this is really the opportunity for Noble Lady Sao to prove herself, right? And Concubine Wan says so. She's like, you're an intelligent woman, you can say whatever you like, but whatever you do say will depend on your future. And she's like, whatever plans I do have will depend on you, my your highness. She's talking to Concubine Wan. She does bring up a good point in saying that yes, Consort Hua has been very, very like evil, I guess is the word, because she used malicious, and I'm like, malicious isn't good enough. Like, it's straight evil, just like just straight, like, yeah, maliciousness works, whatever. But she also like points out, but she also aided in promoting your status, you know, and she also allowed you to have your child, which I guess is a nicety, because bitch, who are you to tell me to not have children? Like, you're not, like, even if you were the empress, like, girl. But after like that whole conversation, ooh, excuse me, chat. Had a vegan hot pocket. I was talking about those last time. Boy, whoo, them hoes, bust, dude, bust. Okay, but they do give heartburns, like regular hot pocket. I noticed that, and I was just like, oh, I thought I could avoid this, but I guess not. Anyways, moving on. In the next scene, we're talking with Noble Lady Hui, and Noble Lady Wei, oh, and Concubine Wan, excuse me. And Noble Lady Wei is asking why Concubine Wan did what she did in terms of reinstating Consort Hua. And this scene is very heart-wrenching, personally. Like, I'm glad they were able to talk, at least, before parting ways. And I'm really glad they were able, not necessarily hash it out, but at least able to physically speak to each other about it, rather than having someone talk to each other for them. And so, yeah, it didn't end on a good note. It ended on a sour note, sure. But, oh, and it also causes them to be, like, easier targets, obviously, because they're not as fortified or as unified as before. But Noble Lady Hui will definitely understand why Concubine did what she did. Like, that I know. Because Noble Lady Hui, while a good friend to Concubine Wan, she is, I wouldn't say she's a smarter friend, but she's already been through what concubine Wan went through when she lost her child, in learning that you have to fight for favor. You have to regain some type of stability and a foothold in the palace. And that may be the emperor, that may be the empress dowager. For some, it's the empress, right? And that tells me that because she has already had been through it first and has now come on the other, has come out on the other side first, she has a little bit more of insight first, right? And so, while, excuse me, I'm just burping, this fucking heartburn. While upset, like right now, like temporarily, permanently, I don't think she'll be upset. I think she might be hurt, sure, but hurt doesn't necessarily mean that you're hurting because of what's like, or hurt doesn't necessarily mean that she's hurting from concubine Wan. She's just more or less hurting from not necessarily understanding the choice behind it, you know, and like why it was done like this in particular, you know, because she can't see, even with all the explanations, even with all the sense that it's making, she still can't get over the why of it all. Like, why would you do that? Like, why? No matter how many times that she tells her it was because I did it for this, and because I was out of options. I can't sit here and pick and choose. I have to just do this because I have to bear with it. But she also, and concubine Wan also says, I suffer no less than you, and even more so. I literally lost my child. You know, not actually saying, you know, you weren't ever pregnant, but she was saying, like, I quite literally had a child growing in me and felt that child leaving me, you know? Versus, Noble Lady Hui, who was just, like, set up to feel like she was pregnant, because once again, the doctors made her believe she was, at the behest of Consort Hua, only to then have it ripped out of her and then used against her because of the schemes of Consort Hua, right? But aside from that, like I said, it does suck that they don't see eye to eye now, but I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing. I don't think it's going to be something that causes her to never want to see her again. I really don't, because they had been through so much already. It doesn't make sense for them to, over this at least, over Consort Nia's reinstatement, to do this, right? But I digress. We're moving on. Noble Lady An, in the next scene, has really shown herself to be super pathetic. Like, it's really sad. All she can think about now is how she's so powerful and in favor, and that she can be the one to grant nice things to people, to lesser people than her, rather being the one to receive nice things because she's seen as the lesser. And I can't help but, like, just feel, not bad, no, feel really fucking, like, upset, because how do you have such a warped view when you didn't, like, you didn't lose that much in comparison, or you didn't even go through that much in comparison to your supposed friends, meaning concubine Wan, meaning Noble Lady Hui. Like, concubine Wan quite literally was forced to have a miscarriage via Consort Hua's, like, goading and abuse and overbearing, and excuse me, Noble Lady Hui was quite literally, like, set up to be, like, told that, oh, you're pregnant, congratulations, when it was a whole scam and a lie in the beginning. Like, at most I've ever seen was people talk bad about Noble Lady onto her face. Like, people were like, oh, you're just an attendant, who gives a fuck? Oh, like, who are you? That type of thing, right? No one's actually, like, gone after her. And I can't help but feel like she's just nothing but a spoiled child. Nothing but a spoiled child. I'm not spoiled in that she has received all of the favor and all of the love, so she doesn't know what it's like to go without. But she has gone without so much so that now that she gets even a crumb, she's so spoiled about it. She's so overly no, excited's not the word. She's so overly I can't think of the word right now, chat. But yeah, like, she's just so obsessed with the fact that she has to be on equal footing with her, what she considers betters, and particularly concubine Wan, which, once again, you could never, like, it was never going to be that, whether it was from the emperor or in intellect or in family background. Of course, strive to be better, strive to learn, but don't do so by then throwing others under the bus to do it. But finally, we get the official introduction and look at Concubine Wan's mom. Not to mention her little sister. Her mother was very, very insightful. She knew exactly how hard it was for her daughter to live in this type of place. And she tried to, like, not tried, but she literally was like, I know that you may be smiling, but it doesn't mean that you're happy. And while I know that your happiness is predicated on, you know, the emperor and what he does or what he can do for you and for us, please try to find your own happiness, is essentially what she's saying. And I want to just point out, like, her little sister is so adorable. Why do I feel like 10 years is gonna go by and her sister's gonna end up in the harem? Why do I feel like, because she looks maybe like 7, 8, so maybe not even 10 years, like, just add like 7, 8 years and she'll like automatically be like drafted into the into the imperial harem via the concubine selection. And I say that too because obviously she's gonna look like Concubine Wan. She's her sister. Same thing with Jade. That's why the emperor was like initially attracted to Jade in the first place. She looked like Concubine Wan, who looked like Empress Chunyun, Empress Premier. So it's like, it's kind of not hard to draw that conclusion. But I digress. I'm moving on. I'm moving on, chat. Next, we see something that kind of came out of left field. I did not expect this at all, dude. Like, So what happened was, the emperor visited what's her name, Consort Hua, right? And Consort Hua happened to, let me get a water break. Hold on, chat. Excuse me. But yeah, okay, so we see Consort Dian is here to serve the emperor, like he's here for the night and whatever. And Consort Hua happens to have her head maid, Jinshi, or not Jinshi, was it Jinshi? What's her? Songju, excuse me, Songju, help with serving as she normally does, and she so happens to bring out a bowl for him to like wipe up his hands, wash up his hands and whatnot. And he happens to he notices that there's, herbal powder added to the hand wash, and Songju answers it was made with like various different like things like bamboo and angelica, whatever that is. I'm assuming different types of herbs. And it was soaked with pork spleen apparently, which I'm just like, excuse me? Pork spleen? Bro, hell no. But regardless, she was just saying that she just added all these various things like sandalwood, and how like, because Consort Hua doesn't like certain things like magnolia bark or whatever, she adds other things instead, right? And so the emperor is like, oh, okay, you well versed in such things, very educated, very well, nice. And immediately I'm like, oh shit, y'all, I think we might have another chosen maid / escort you. I don't know if you guys remember from like the beginning of the series, escort you, who joined the harem. I really think that Songju might become that, because he's very all of a sudden interested in her. Like, he loves that she's able to or she's well versed in taking care of her mistress, and he was just so like, oh, okay, I'm, taking notice of her basically. And Consort Hua was staring daggers, dog. When I say, she quite literally was like, I'll kill you. If looks could kill, basically, I'll kill you, is basically what Consort Hua is doing right now. And so the emperor still continues his little flirtatious conversation, and she's like, what is he? Oh, he asked her name. And so he's like, what's your family name? And then what's your full name, whatnot. And then he's like, oh, okay, that's sweet. And then immediately he's like, all right, everybody, let's go eat. I'm hungry. And so immediately Counterhua, like, when she looks at the Emperor, she smiles, and when the Emperor walks in front of her, the look that she gives, like, immediately went from smile, smile, death, out of nowhere, and I was just like, oh, this lady's crazy. Like, she's gonna kill Songju for helping. She's gonna kill Songju for just being a maid. Out of nowhere. It's not even her fault that the Emperor just happened to look her way. What is she supposed to do? Like, scratch up her face so she looks hideous? Like, I don't understand, you know? So dinner arrives, and the Emperor is like, you know what? Just have your servants do it. You don't have to do it. Don't worry about it. And of course, he requests Songju specifically to serve him. And Concert Nian's like, I fucking dare you to. In her head, though, because out loud, obviously, the Emperor's there. She can't be that bitch. She can't be as evil as she wants to be. She's like, the Emperor asked you to serve him, so you should probably do it. Thanks. Like, she's seething right now. She is seething, chat. So dinner goes off without a hitch. Of course, the Emperor is being very flirty with Songju. And it's like, Concert Hua is just... Songju basically don't have a chance in hell anymore. In the next scene, we see Noble Lady Hui and Noble Lady An together. And honestly, the one things I pointed out, or wanted to point out in my own like script specifically, was in this conversation that they're having. Not at one point in time does Noble Lady Hui let me down. Like, her character has not let me down as of yet. And even though she knew that Noble Lady An, Noble Lady An was the reason why, or at least not the reason, but was one of was trying to create a rift there by spreading what she assumed was rumors at the time. She ends up reading her from left to right, like from A to Z, and letting her know exactly how it is. And quite honestly, it's the best episode. I don't want to even say episode. It's the best scene by far. Okay, she puts her in her place. And when when Noble Lady Hui's are on, it's like, you know, I'm not really good at communicating. I end up making mistakes and end up making people upset and stuff like that. And she's like, girl, be quiet. Don't even forget it. If anything, you might as well put some effort into getting, you know, into His Majesty's good graces, trying to get that favor and convincing him to punish Consort Hua, rather than sitting up here trying to talk to me about it. And you see, like, Noble Lady An is getting riled up. She's like, I don't even have the ability to convince him, okay? And she's like, inability isn't the problem, honey. That's not the issue. The issue is having a corrupt heart and intentionally driving a wedge between people. And she's just popping off left and right, letting her know exactly how it is. Like, you knew exactly what you was doing by trying to come to me yesterday. You knew exactly what the problem was. And so Noble Lady An, bro, and this is the problem that I don't understand. You try and sit up here with the big dogs. You try to sit up here and like go after everything you supposedly want, but you don't even defend yourself when someone comes at you and confronts you. Even if you are in the wrong, some of the other women don't even care. Some of the other women will defend themselves no matter what, because to them what they're doing is what's best for them. That's how I know, like, Noble Lady An is pathetic and weak, because she knows what she's doing is wrong. She can't even defend it. Like, she has to go back and talk to her maid, Kuka, to sit here and feel like she was right and justified. And I was just like, yeah, this scene did it for me. This was the scene. But moving on. Consort Hua, so self-assured and arrogant as she is in front of others, behind closed doors, baby, she is nothing but an insecure brat. Okay, Miss Ma'am just sits there and complains and cries about everything. And it's obvious that the Emperor is literally or deliberately flirting with Songju to get under her skin. But yet she's sitting up here angry and mad and like damn near about to cut Songju's fucking head off. And I'm just like, what? So you would quite literally throw any and everybody under the bus if it meant getting favor from the Emperor, and only you getting favor from the Emperor. And it's so fucked up because, like, Songju's a maid. Like, you know she has no power, especially against, like, a mistress of higher status. when Consort Hua like confronts her, she's like, "Oh, you were so talkative during dinner. Why are you quiet now? What do you have to say now?" Immediately, like Songju, like I watched the replay. The replay. She kind of like trips, but she kind of like kneels down really quickly, and she's like, "I have nothing to. I have no intentions. Or she doesn't say I have no intentions. She's like, I beg your forgiveness. I had no intentions of doing that." And Consort Hua's like, "What did you do wrong? What is there to forgive? Weren't you pleased with yourself? Weren't you so fucking happy, waving your paws and waving your smile all over His Majesty, essentially angry?" And she immediately turns around and like she like lunges her arm back to like slap her, and she has a comb in her hand, so she's gonna like slap the comb at her. When her eunuch comes in, he's like, Your Highness, if you dislike the comb, you could give it to me. You ain't gotta toss it. You ain't gotta do nothing, you know? And he kind of like inadvertently advises her that or not inadvertently, that was a incorrect word. He advises her that it would be inadvertent to her cause to go after Songju like this. And he says this because it is quite obvious that the emperor has a thing for her. Like he's just looking at her now. He just happens to see what he likes. And if you come off as this evil, angry hag, which she is, you're gonna set yourself up for failure. He's gonna see you as nothing but a jealous old bitch, and you're not gonna get anywhere. And even if it, like, he was saying, like, it's just a compliment. Even if the Majesty did like him, even if the Emperor did like her, like, it doesn't mean anything. And so she's like, she, like, I guess slams her hair down. She's like, in my own palace? In my own palace, there's a sly minx? I can't even believe that she would do this to me. Quick-witted and so sweet-mouthed, trying to steal him. Like, she's, like, raving. And then she's like, she's waving her paws over nothing. Like, and that line was funny to me because I'm like, she's freaking out over nothing herself. You're losing your shit. Songju is so loyal to you. Even though she did nothing wrong, even though that it wasn't her fault, she immediately was like, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I'll never breathe again. Literally. And it's so pathetic because it's like, this woman quite literally, Songju, quite literally would be a great pawn for you to have, fucking idiot. You're so obsessed with favor and having the emperor favor you alone, and you being the number one bitch, I guess, the number one, like, concubine, because you still secondary. That's the thing that bothers me. You're not even the main wife, bro. You're not even the empress, okay? You're still considered a secondary wife, and you're getting jealous over a maid in your own palace that you can handle, that you can deal with. Pathetic, chat. Let's get to our final thoughts. The scene with Concubine Wan and Noble Hui, and she's explaining what happened and why she asked the Emperor to reinstate Consort Hua, really did break me for a sec there. I remember writing this script, and like I put, once again, because I like to leave little notes for myself, I put in all caps, tears, nothing but tears, when that scene popped up. And I know they'll make up, I just hope they'll make up sooner rather than later, because like I said, they're easier targets when apart like that, you know? But Noble Lady An is so sick at this point. Like, she can't decide whether or not she wants to be that bitch, or if she can't handle being that bitch, because every time somebody confronts her, she has to go run and hide. She has to go do some sneaky shit. She can't, and it's not even sneaky like how some of the other women are, like, sneaky in the sense that we know it was you just happen to use somebody from your camp to do it. No, she goes back to her fucking palace with, like, voodoo dolls and shit, like, stuff like that. Anyways, and then let's not forget, Consort Hua's own maid Songju now has caught the eye of the Emperor. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. She could end up being a really good pawn for Consort Hua, or a really, really bad pawn for Consort Hua, and the fact that it's obvious that the Emperor's flirting with her to get to Consort Hua. So there's something there. I don't think he really likes Songju. I think he's just doing this to either get at her or get under her skin. And for what reason? I don't know. I digress. We are moving on, chatters. We're going to be going on to episode 38 of Empresses in the Palace, also known as the Legend of Zhen Huan. You can find all 76 episodes on YouTube, specifically the YouTube channel LETV official channel, or Letev official channel. I do want to point out, and I always make this, I guess this advisory, but the episodes are only in English subtitles up until episode 54. However, the team that is working on them, particularly the Magpie Bridge Brigade team, is constantly updating subtitles. It just takes them a little bit longer. You just have to bear with them, chat. But aside from that, let's move on. Like I said, we are in episode 38, and right off the bat, I have so much to say. Wait. Hold on, I switched the music, chat. Put some stream music on. Not that it wasn't before, but this is like certified stream music. But yeah, so yes, episode 38. We are back, and first, like, everyone's here to, like, the first scene in, everyone's here to greet the Empress. As usual, like, everyone always comes to see her in the not in the mornings, but like early midday mornings, because I think they go to the Empress Dowager first. But now they're there to meet her, and she, for some reason, has this really, like, weird, smug look on her face. And I think it's because, like, she's pushing Noble Lady on to become more friendly with Concubine Wan as a way to look up the crumbs of, like, power / favor. But I seriously doubt, like, Concubine Wan wants to see, like, won't see this for what it is. Like, she won't, like, pick up on it, or she will pick up on it. Like, it's not, and it's not, like, cleverly hid. Like, it's obvious, especially since like, her miscarriage, and she made very clear, like, you didn't even visit me when I was sick or when I was down and out. Like, you aren't too concerned with my well-being, okay? So you can keep your distance. And then excuse me. And then this causes what's your name? Sorry, chat, these titles are fucking I can't just pull up the review. Why do I always do this to myself? I try to go read straight from my script, and I'm like, I could just pull up the review that's on YouTube. Duh. I'm like, just go. You keep I'm telling chat to go to LETV when I could just go to LETV and just pull up the review of the episode. Duh. Anyways, like I was saying, yes, Noble Lady on, Concubine Wan, not friends, no good. Noble Lady Hui, not friends with Concubine Wan. She's not with it after having learned that she indeed was the one who had reinstate or asked the Emperor to reinstate the concert walk. So she's just, like, over it. She's like, we're not gonna be friends. We're not even gonna have niceties. Oh, sorry, chat, just got a text message. Okay, sorry. What was I saying? Yes, so anyways, moving on. And, okay, next scene, we see that Concubine Wan is walking to, a new residence. I think they're staying in the Summer Palace, again, and they're talking about residencies. And from behind, we hear, the fourth prince call for Concubine Wan. And he's high at the, he's, like, high up on these, like, huge, like, rocks, so she asked him to come down immediately, and be careful not to fall, like, you know, showing her motherly side. And I thought that was so cute, so I'm like, oh, she's probably gonna end up being his mom. She's probably gonna, like, because she's literally the only concubine that cares about him, but she's probably gonna end up being his surrogate mom, and rightfully so, because she just lost her child, but also she genuinely cares about him. But anyways, he asked her, he was asking her, you know, I heard that my father's here. I want to see him, but I'm scared. So I climbed the rocks and kind of hid so he wouldn't get mad at me. And so, Concubine Wan is like, you know, if you want to see your father, I'll bring him. You know, maybe not today, but when he's finished, I'll bring him, okay? And whenever he's available. So don't climb the rocks anymore, and I'll be right back, okay? She is so sweet, and I love this scene because like she genuinely, and like she rubs his cheeks, and she's like, okay, be good now, all right? And like you can tell she genuinely loves this child, and he like makes her a little wreath for her head, and she smiles, and like Jade and Vermilion are like, oh, that's so sweet and whatever. But in the next scene, we see that the emperor is talking with his court ministers, and particularly Zhen Yundao, which is the ooh, 1 second, chat. Sorry, chat, just had to deal with my doggy, but I'm back. She was just being a little needy. She wanted me to let her out the room, and I was like, oh, you don't love me anymore, Chanel. And then she gave me a little kiss on the cheek and was like, nah, I still love you. So it's all good, chat. We all good over here. Anyways, back to Empresses in the Palace. We were in the court. Yes, we were in the court with the ministers, and the emperor is talking with concubine Wan's father, and they're getting ready to impeach Ningen Yao. They're all talking about, if anything, all the ministers are listing, there you go, they're all listing his crimes, like his arrogance. He had like civil officials bow to him in the same, all civil and military, by what's it called? Black Koto. There you go, Koto. So he had all the military officials, all the civil officials kowtow to him in the same way they would for the emperor. And then even when one of the ministers, who happened to be sitting on his sedan, like chair, whatever, when he didn't look up or like look at him, pay attention to him, I guess he got angry and kind of like tried to like get back at him. But once again, all the court ministers present are just trying to impeach Ningen Yao. They're all trying to get him, by listing his crimes this way, they're all trying to give a good reason as to why he no longer needs to be serving in the military or even serving in general. The emperor eventually is like, all right, enough. I don't need to hear anymore. You know, this particular situation, like this matter right now, let's just end it. Tell Zhang Tenyu and Long Kudo to come see me about this tomorrow. Everybody else can leave. So he kind of officially like dismisses them, and he kind of tells everybody that this is too important for us to discuss right now. Get the two ministers, which were Zhang Tenyu, I believe, and Long Kudo, and I'll deal with them about this situation. I'll have them handle it, and we'll go from there. And in the next scene, you know, we have or we're moving on to the next scene because they don't correlate. My bad, chat. But yes, in the next scene, we have now Contrehua. She is just standing outside of her door, and I'm presumably gonna say she's waiting for the emperor, because Su Peshong walks up to her and is like, "Oh, His Majesty won't be here for you tonight." He's like, they're not gonna have dinner together, whatever. And he says, he says the emperor's gonna be very busy. Like, he anticipates being busy for the next few weeks. He won't be able to have dinner with you. And so this obviously pisses her off to the point where, how can you say, like, I don't want to be like she pimped out Seongyu, but she kind of pimped out Seongyu. She heard that Zhen Yundao, or concubine Wan's father, led an impeachment against her brother and all the people that he's around, like all of his underlings and subordinates. And this caused them to seize thousands and thousands upon dollars embezzled by one of his right hands, Wei Jianyao, I believe, Wei Jianyao. And because of this, you know, obviously the emperor is avoiding her. She like concludes that the emperor doesn't want to see her because of this. And she's like, you know, the emperor despises corruption the most. He'll never like, in essence, will never be the same again because of this. And so she gets mad at Zhen Yundao. Sorry, chat. Just had to handle something right quick, but I am back. I hope you didn't miss me. But yeah, so now her mind is set against Zhen Yundao. Because like she realizes like he's the main one leading this charge against her brother and his subordinates. The thing is though, like she's so fucking short-sighted. It's not just Zhen Yundao. There was other court ministers there, right? I'm thinking, and this is my prediction, that because of her hatred for Concubine Wan and because of her like her huge disdain for her, she kind of like automatically assumes that, oh, obviously this guy is coming after me and my family because I've come after him and his family. Like that's not what's happening. Like first of all, Concubine Wan's father is one of the most, I wouldn't say pure because I'm not trying to like evaluate the purity, but he's one of the most straightforward men in the court. Like he doesn't fuck around. He also knows to differentiate between good and bad and knows how to say no to people trying to bribe him off. Obviously, that has caused him to ruffle some feathers with Nin Gunyao in the past, and hers, like, unfortunately, that has caused his daughter, Concubine Wan, to take the brunt force of the anger of the Nin family from Consort Hua. But now Consort Hua, seeing that because she's done all of this and because of the history that they have, now her father, particularly Concubine Wan's father, is coming after them. And there are she doesn't know where they stand now, particularly with her brother in the court and her with the emperor. And she's like, you know, he's always trusted my brother, and I don't know what to do if like these corruption charges from his subordinates get to my brother. Like, what do I do? So her head eunuch suggests, and this is what I say, like, she gets the idea to pimp out Songju. So her what's it called? Her head eunuch, there you go. Her head eunuch kind of not implicates that she could do that, but he gets the ball rolling on the idea. And so she snatches up Shangyu's chin and she looks at her, and she, like, you can see the wheels turning in her head. And in the next episode, sure enough, she goes to visit His Majesty, but Songju is superbly dressed. She has beautiful earrings, she has a different wardrobe on. Like, if you compare it literally from the past scene, Songju's wardrobe, and I'll actually go for scene, yeah. So she's wearing bare minimum nice clothing, I guess you could say. Like, the patterns on her dress are like a purple, pinkish, very plain, very becoming of a maid, obviously. She also doesn't have any makeup on, completely barefaced. She doesn't have any jewelry on, nothing. Like, and then the actual what's it called? I forgot what the headpieces are called. Langhua, yes. The Langhua on her headdress is very, very demure, very simple. It's just maybe like one silver pin flowers and a band, and that's it. But in the next scene, literally, when you see her walking in with Concert Nian, she's wearing, all of a sudden, her outfit has changed to this beautiful, bright pink and rose, or not pink, peach and rose gold kind of colored dress. She has earrings on now. Her hair, while not done immaculately, is done differently. She has different pins, she has different langhas in her hair. Also, she's now wearing makeup. And that was not necessarily unheard of, but that's very uncommon, especially for a maid. Even like the Empress Dowager, like the Empresses maids don't wear makeup, you know? It's very, very uncommon. So they go in, and like I said, she is there to, like, she's literally down on her luck, bro. She's down so bad that she ends up pimping out her maid as a way to get back in the Emperor's good graces, right? And it works. He gives her a rank and everything. Of course, she doesn't see him right away because he's talking with, what you call them? Silver officials. There you go. He's talking with the silver officials, and once they're like dismissed, he doesn't dismiss them. Once he's like, okay, this conversation isn't gonna go anywhere, because he's talking to Lankado and Zhang Tinyu. He's like, you know, both of you have helped with like my ascension to the throne. I don't want to cut off my relation with him. Blase squaze. We see Songju come in with a cup of water, or a cup of tea, presented on behalf of Concert Nian. Normally, Concert Hua would go in with the tea while he's like talking and dealing with this, but she sent in her, and this is like her show of like good grace of, oh, here you go, here's my little maid. And it's funny because Songju comes in and she's like, oh, here's the you should try this tea, your majesty, it's the best. And he's like, shut up, bitch. Well, he doesn't say that, but he's like, shut up, bitch, you talk when you speak when you're spoken to, right? And that's essentially what it, like, that's literally what he says. Like I'm not even gonna hold you, like if I could rewind it, he's like, quiet, you were not spoken to. And so Songju immediately bends down. She's like, I beg your majesty's pardon, I apologize. And he's like, oh, Songju, because he looks up, he's like, Songju, wait a minute, oh, it's you. And she's like, oh, I apologize, I was just obeying Consort Hua's order. She asked me to bring you tea, you know, like nothing crazy, nothing like that. And so she looks up from like where she's kneeling, and he's like, I like what you're wearing today. That dress looks nice on you, bro. And both Zhang Tenyu and Longkata are like, oh, the fuck? Oh, hell no, we out. And so they dismiss themselves, and they're, because they share a knowing look of like, oh, okay, and he ain't about to talk about no court affairs no more. He saw a pretty lady. And so, of course, the two ministers pass Concert Hua, they greet her, it's whatever. And then, the emperor's like, oh, so Concert Hua sent you in, huh? And once again, I don't know how she was so blinded as to not, maybe she was so desperate, the desperation to get in favor and make sure everything was just as good as it was before. But I don't understand how she didn't see that this was clearly a ploy to, like, not necessarily get back at her, because we don't know why he's doing it, but this is clearly a ploy of some sort to, like, do something to her. Whether it's to have her fall from grace entirely, I'm not sure. Whether Songju is going to become like an escort, a chosen maid type of situation, I'm not sure, because Songju's very demure. She doesn't seem, she doesn't seem outspoken, especially when she can't hide behind Concert Hua, But I digress. The emperor is like, okay, have the tea, whatever. And as soon as the next scene comes in, we see Eunuch Su walking out, and he's talking to Concert Hua, like she's waiting for him, essentially, for like the good news, because she knows why she's here. Okay, she knows why she sent Songju, and like there's a mistake. So Su Peshong tells her, oh, Songju's gonna stay here today. You don't have to leave, but you can if you want to. It's gonna be super hot if you stay. And so like she's like, I see. Ah. And so Songja. So Miss Eunuch Sue is like, you know, you really have an eye for beauty. You know, it's okay. You have a keen eye for it, and that's why His Majesty appreciates Songju. All because of your effort, basically placating her. And it works. It works. She smiles to herself and then walks off, though she looks a little